Here at NewsNation, we're dedicated to covering stories some news outlets neglect and some politicians simply ignore. That is why we have been all over the train derailment in East Palestine, Ohio, ever since the train's cargo of vinyl chloride first filled the sky. The accident happened more than 15 months ago, but the cleanup, it's still ongoing. And information about what really happened is leaking out right here. A new EPA whistleblower sat down exclusively with NewsNation to speak out about what he calls the agency's failures in the days following the disaster. He says it's not what the EPA did so much as it is what they did not do after the incident. NewsNation investigative correspondent Rich McHugh has been covering the story from the very start. He joins us live from East Palestine. Rich, what is the whistleblower telling you?
Hey, Elizabeth, of all the stories that we've reported from East Palestine since the beginning, this one may be the most important. This whistleblower, extremely credible, having worked for the Department of Defense and a contractor for the EPA for 4 decades. He says the EPA failed to protect the people of East Palestine.
On February 6, 2023, officials in East Palestine, Ohio, burned 5 tank cars full of vinyl chloride.
You ready? I'm ready. Let's get out of here.
3 days later, the EPA gave the all clear for residents to come back. Immediately, residents complained of sicknesses and rashes.
I had a rash all over the side of my face, on both sides, and all over my chest.
EPA Chief Michael Regan, visiting East Palestine, praised the work of the EPA, giving specific credit to the high-tech airplane they used to detect chemical compounds in the air. It's called Aspect.
We've had boots on the ground, leading robust air quality testing, including the Advanced Technological Aspect Plane.
Robert Kroutil is a scientist, spent 4 decades helping to create the Aspect program, originally for the Department of Defense and later as a contractor with the EPA. Today, he is blowing the whistle on the EPA and their use of the Aspect plane with the disaster in East Palestine.
That deployment was the most unusual deployment I've ever seen.
He says the EPA protocol is to have the plane in the air within hours of a chemical disaster. And in all his missions, he has never seen this response.
In East Palestine, we had a big delay.
How big of a delay?
5 days.
5 days?
5 days.
Why do you think that is?
I don't know. I'm still asking myself that question, why you would deploy this aircraft 5 days late.
The plane, Kroutil says, should have been there immediately, flying and gathering data for days.
We should be there at least 2 weeks to monitor the situation.
And that did not happen?
That did not happen.
And this deviates from how this plane is used in every other disaster?
It deviates from that.
They should have been collecting data while the toxic plume was in the sky, he says.
We only were deployed for 2 missions on February 7th. And by that time, the plumes were out, the fire was out. The aircraft actually only collected data, 8 minutes worth of data over the targets.
What does it usually collect?
Oh, hundreds of minutes.
Even more troubling, he says they turned off the chemical sensors over the creeks in East Palestine.
Is that normal protocol?
That's not normal protocol.
Was there a reason given?
No.
The Government Accountability Project has come forward to offer him legal protection as a whistleblower.
The EPA didn't gather the chemical information that it could have gathered to inform first responders, the community, and our government officials as to what to do with evacuations, protecting the public, and the vent and burn. They could have done this and they chose not to. The question is why.
Kroutil says he was even told not to write the words East Palestine in his reports. Kroutil decided to file a Freedom of Information Act request to get more information on the actual mission of the flights. Then he was threatened with his job.
I was told that I'd be fired within 24 hours if I didn't rescind the FOIA action.
And so what did you do?
I rescinded the FOIA.
Kroutil resigned.
Why have you made this choice to speak out?
Because it's the truth.
Now, Kroutil says the EPA managers amended his final report from inconclusive to a success. EPA is pushing back on his claim, saying they did not fly the plane because of weather. something that he refutes directly. Elizabeth?
Thanks so much for watching. Go to joinnn.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.